Scotland Yard is a detective board game for 3 to 6 people. Mr. X tries to shake off his pursuers in London. To do this he flees by bus, taxi, or underground. Only the cleverest detectives can manage to catch him, because he tries to elude his pursuers until the end of the game, and at the same time conceal his current whereabouts. The detectives, on the other hand, try to correctly interpret Mr. X's moves and track him down. All players agree on who will take on the role of Mr. X. The other players are the detectives. The tickets are put out as a general supply. Mr. X receives the white playing piece, the cloaking screen to prevent telltale glances, the travel board with a sheet of paper inserted, and a pen, and then 5 black tickets, and 2 double train tickets. Mr. X takes the normal tickets from the general supply throughout the game. Each of the detectives receives 1 playing figure and the ticket board in the matching color. For underground, 8 bus and 11 taxi tickets are then placed on this. If fewer than 4 detectives are playing, the bobbies come to their aid. With 2 detectives, that is 2 bobbies, and with 3 detectives, that is 1 bobby. These bobbies are represented by unassigned playing figures, over which a colorful cardboard ring is placed. This ring is also a free ticket for all means of transport. The bobbies do not need any tickets for their moves. In addition, they are played together by all detectives during the game. To determine the starting positions, the starting cards are first sorted by their backs, shuffled, and placed face down on the table. Each detective now draws one of them and places his playing piece on the corresponding station. If bobbies are playing, a starting card is also drawn for each bobby and positioned accordingly. Now it is Mr. X's turn. He now draws a face-down starting card with an X on the back, looks at it, but does not place his playing piece on the game board. By the way, the numbers of the stations are mostly arranged from left to right on the game board. Up to 22 rounds are played. A round always consists of Mr. X making his move first and then all the detectives and bobbies one after the other in any order. To do this, Mr. X as well as every detective and every bobby have to change their location. Each detective uses a ticket for the route they travel. They must then take this from their ticket board and put it in the general supply. Mr. X always sees his tickets from the general supply, and bobbies don't need any anyway. Each place on the game board is a station for 1 to 3 means of transport: taxi, bus, underground. The respective colors of the stations indicate which means of transport start and stop there. In order to use a means of transport, the playing figure must be standing on a station for this means of transport. The 4-line color appears in a circle. Red stands for underground, blue for bus, and yellow for taxi. Every place on the game board can be reached by taxi. The distance you can cover here is short, however. You can only move along the yellow line to the next station. The bus only leaves from places with a turquoise semicircle. You can use it to cover longer distances along the bus lines. The underground travels along the red line and can cover long distances quickly. However, there are only a few of them. So when it is a player's turn, but don't forget, in the order, Mr. X is always the first player, then he uses a ticket of the corresponding color and moves to the next station. The ticket goes into the general supply and it is the next player's turn. All figures can only be moved to free places. If Mr. X cannot move to a free place, he has lost. And if a detective or bobby moves to the place where Mr. X is, then Mr. X has also lost. However, the detective and bobby can never stand in the same place. Mr. X makes his moves face down. To do this, he secretly selects a new station, which is directly connected to his current location by a line. He can see Mr. X's current location on his board, because he enters it here. Of course, the other players are not allowed to see the board. He then covers his entries directly with the ticket he used. This means that the players know which means of transport Mr. X used, but not where. And don't forget that the ticket Mr. X drew at the beginning shows where he is starting. When it is his turn again on the next turn, he moves from this noted station to the next station of his choice. The station is noted again and covered with the transport ticket used. After Mr. X has finished his turn, the detectives and bobbies take their turn in any order. Since the detectives are pursuing a common goal, the players should coordinate their own moves and those of the bobbies. Each detective puts the ticket he has just used into the supply, and places his playing piece on the selected station of the transport he has chosen. Bobbies don't need tickets. Always remember, the detectives have a limited supply of tickets. If a detective has no tickets left or can no longer move with his tickets, he has to pass. Swapping tickets is not allowed. Mr. X can always see which player still has how many tickets available, but he also has to show up at regular intervals. The times at which he has to appear are marked on the time board by circled numbers and a larger writing field. As usual, Mr. X makes his entry on the board and places his ticket on top of it. Then he places his playing piece on his current location on the game board. When he appears, Mr. X should of course make sure that no one can reach him on his next turn. Now the detectives have a great chance of catching Mr. X or even catching him. But they don't have much time for that, because on his next turn his playing piece disappears from the board again. All detectives have now made their turn. Mr. X was not caught and it is his turn again. He now secretly chooses his means of transport and goes back into hiding until the next circled number. If Mr. X plays one of his double train tickets, he can visit 2 places in this round. And he can do so with any combination of 2 different means of transport. He writes this down at the station on his travel board. Here he has to use 2 fields and places the 2 tickets for the means of transport used on them. The double train ticket used is now out of the game. If the first place is a place where he has to appear, show that he disappears there briefly but then returns again with his next move. When playing a double move, Mr. X is not allowed to enter a field that is already occupied at either of the 2 stations. Apart from that, Mr. X also has the option of using one of his black tickets. With this he can not only use any means of transport, but also a ferry. He can travel very long distances on the ferry, and the other players still have no idea where he is, because they don't even know what means of transport he used. Except that he used a black ticket. These black tickets can also be used in a double move. The detectives win the game as soon as one of their figures, or bobbies, is at the same station as Mr. X at the same time. In this case he must of course reveal his identity. But Mr. X wins if he manages to travel through London by the end of the 22nd round without being caught by the detectives. The round is only over when the detectives have moved again. He also wins if none of the detectives can move anymore. If you like this video, please leave a thumb up and feel free to subscribe this channel. Thank you for watching.